But let's backtrack a little bit. So growing up, I mean, obviously you went to play track and softball in college, or at least that's what you were recruited for. But
Yep.
growing up playing all of those different sports, this is a two-part question. Was
Okay.
there a favorite sport when you were younger? And the second thing is, how did the weather play a factor into, because you see what athletics and sports are in Hawaii, where things just keep going year round because there's no seasons, right? But
Yep.
up there, when you have extreme cold for over half of the year, how did that factor into how much you could practice, your activity level, and all of that?
It's so funny. You asked me this, and immediately I have this flashback of this one time that perfectly describes exactly what you're talking about. It was my freshman year in high school, track season. So for us, track season is the same time as it is here in Hawaii. And it was the end of track season was the state championship. My freshman year, I was running the 100-meter dash. I was so fast. It was ridiculous. The tiniest person out there, 100 pounds soaking wet, but running literally like a 12-1 100-meter dash. Everybody's like, wow, that girl can run, right? State championship freshman year. The girl next to me, twice my size, she's a senior. She's like literally going on a D1 scholarship after this. And I'm so intimidated and I'm so scared. I just knew I was just going to freeze up, that there's no way that I could do this. And out of nowhere, we're literally on the starting blocks ready for this race. And out of nowhere, this blizzard hit. We're talking May in Wyoming, and a blizzard comes through in the middle of the state tournament track meet, canceled the track meet. The athlete who was next to me ended up getting the flu. And when they rescheduled the tournament for the next weekend, she couldn't participate, and I won. And my freshman year, I was the state champion track because of a blizzard. And the girl I was competing against ended up getting the flu because she got caught in a blizzard in Wyoming state track tournament. I mean, that kind of stuff. If I tell my Hawaii athletes that, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, well this one time when we went to the Big Island, it rained on us."
Yeah.
Right? So it definitely played a big factor. And we played indoor sports during certain seasons because you cannot play outdoor sports during that time of year. I mean, I called my brother to wish him a happy birthday, and he sent me back a video of them up in the mountains on a snow machine. So it's literally still completely winter in Wyoming where I'm from.
Mhm.
So there's no way that they could be doing outdoor sports like baseball or softball right now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, it gives me a good perspective too, which is why I appreciate this so much.
Yes. So even softball, were there a lot of changes or canceled practices, or did you guys have indoor facilities where you could at least do BP or throw or whatever?
Yeah, no, softball was summer. I mean, softball and baseball was summer, was the only time we could play it. Yeah, there was no, I mean, if it was still winter, there's no way. There's no indoor facilities. The only indoor facilities in Wyoming are ranches and Walmarts. That's about it. Those are the only indoor facilities.
But what about when you start up baseball and softball and the tail end of it, was
Yeah.
it starting to get like cold and the weather was questionable, or no, you guys always were able to have a full season?
Well, unless it was one of those we
Mhm.
usually had a full season, but unless it was one of those crazy early winters that came out of nowhere, then
Got it.
other than that, we pretty much had a full season. That was the thing that was hard for me when I went from softball in high school to softball in college. It was a different time. It was a different season.
Mhm.
So we did train a lot indoor when I was playing softball in college,
Got it.
because you couldn't wait until it warmed up to start conditioning and throwing and getting into shape. You couldn't.
Think of all of the sports that you tried. Were softball and track your favorite, or did you have other favorite sports that you wish that you pursued in college?
Oh, you know what my favorite sport was that I only got to do it for 1 year because I hid it from my mom, was wrestling. I I think I would have been a really good wrestler. But my mom was so upset because the only other people my size and my weight were, boys, and she didn't want me wrestling against boys. So I never got to wrestle. But to this day, that is the sport that I just love. And I know if I would have been able to wrestle, I would have been a really good wrestler.
So
But
let's back up a little bit. How did you hide one season of wrestling from your mom? I think that's what everyone's thinking right now.
yeah. What I did was the wrestling practice started immediately right after school. And my mom thought that I was somewhere else doing another sport until she actually, got in touch with the coach. And the coach is like, why isn't Liz coming out for basketball? And she's like, what are you talking about? She comes to practice every day. Oh man, I got in big trouble. She came into the wrestling room and literally dragged me out by my ears. Literally. So
what grade were you when this happened?
I think sixth grade.
Oh, younger.
Sixth grade. Yeah. Oh, Andrew, I was playing sports from probably six.
Yes. So schools have competitive school wrestling from intermediate school then.
Yeah. Especially in the Midwest, wrestling is huge.
Yes.
Colorado, Nebraska, Montana. Yeah.
That's very different from in Hawaii because unless maybe private schools have intermediate wrestling. I'm not even sure.
I actually don't know if St. Louis does. I bet St. Louis does, but then who do those intermediate boys wrestle against? I don't know, or intermediate kids. Yeah. Good question. We'll find it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But that's like my son, he's a freshman now at Waianae High School. And I'm like, okay, what sport are you going to play? And well, we're kind of limited now, right? We get baseball, softball, track, golf, tennis, and we didn't have enough kids to come out for judo. But I said, what sport do you want to play? And this whole time I'm thinking now, what sport do I want to play, right? Like, what sport do you want to play? And he said, tennis. And I was like, okay, all right, let's do this. And then I'm like, oh, I don't even know how to play tennis. I don't know how to play tennis. Yeah. I don't even know how to score tennis. I think ping pong would be the closest thing I ever got to tennis. So now here I am. I've been an athletic trainer at Waianae High School for 7 years, and I'm only now going to have to learn about tennis because my son is deciding to be a tennis player at Waianae High School. So
that's good though. You learn these lessons from your kids, and they'll teach you so much more than what we've been exposed to. So this is interesting to hear some of the differences of what it was like growing up in Wyoming, but also the different sports and different issues that you have to overcome, especially with the weather, and also not only the weather, but being in a smaller high school, the graduating class is smaller too. So knowing that there's not as much volume or as much participants, that kind of limits your choices as well too.